Hey everyone, how are you doing? It's Brandon. Okay, today is April something. Let's see, April 9th, I think. Yeah, that's right, April 9th. And you may or may not know, probably most of you do, is if you're a subscriber, you definitely know, but I live in a small town. Technically, this area is called Yoshiwara. You probably hear me say Toyosaka most of the time because Toyosaka is like the main town. Some people say city, but I don't call it a city. In American English, we would definitely call this a town. It's definitely not a city, but Yoshiwara is a small part of Toyosaka, and Toyosaka kind of belongs to Saijo, and Saijo is like the capital of Higashi Hiroshima, and Higashi Hiroshima is East Hiroshima, which is uh, also part of Hiroshima City. So you can see how it just kind of goes down. But Toyosaka is part of three different towns that are very close together: Toyosaka, Fukutomi, and Kochi. And usually twice a year, these three towns or cities, whatever you want to call them, they get together and they have kind of a local um, business fair festival type thing. And it's just an opportunity for the locals to not only, local businesses to not only showcase their services, their products, their foods, and whatever, but it's also a chance for the people from the area and from outside of the area to go to it, to have fun, to bring their families, to bring their kids, to go eat, maybe buy some things and see what these local towns have to offer. And so it's also an effort to rebuild the community and to help each other and connect with each other to grow and grow and grow. So I am now a part of this community since I live here. My house is in Toyosaka, of course, but uh, recently, many weeks ago, a friend of mine named Tiago, he and I talked about going to this place, this festival or fair. It's called basically in plain English, you could say it's called Center March, but that's not the proper pronunciation. They're using like the French pronunciation for it, but I'm just going to call it Center March because it's easy. And the Center March happens a couple times a year, like I mentioned, and local people, local businesses can have a food stall or a product or services, stall there at this event. And we decided to have some type of wood making stall. Now, this was my idea actually a couple of years ago. And originally, when I was living in Hiroshima and I already bought the house here, I really wanted to have a stall and sell some stuff, some wood making stuff. I have a lot of woodworking experience, especially in cabinetry. For a few years, I worked with my good friend Wes and a few other friends in Louisiana, where I built thousands of bathroom cabinets, kitchen cabinets, hallway stuff, desks, shelving, just all sorts of stuff out of wood. And pretty much everything we made had face frames. So we built the face frame cabinets with the European hidden hinges most of the time, but sometimes we would mix it up and make some different things. But the bottom line is that I got a lot of woodworking experience and I love creating things, especially I love making movies, but I also love creating things with my hands. So last year, I really wanted to take part in the Center March, and I was going to try to go down there and sell some stuff. But there were a few issues. The entrance fee is very cheap. It's only like 10,000 yen, so it's like $80 or so to have a stall, just a small stall there, and so it's not a big deal. But at that time, I wasn't living in this house full time. I was lacking a lot of tools, and I didn't have a lot of time to be out here and build stuff. On top of that, I didn't have a car at the time. I didn't have any way to get my stuff down there. There were a lot of things that I really needed that I didn't have. And so actually my sensei, Saori sensei, she recommended maybe now's not the right time. Maybe you should just keep on trying to get a car, and then later on when you have some more tools or whatever, you get moved out or you get to spend some more time in your house, then you can see about taking part in that. And I said, okay. And so I kind of put it to the side. And whenever I met Tiago a couple of months ago, he started talking about his idea because he went there. He saw me there. Interestingly enough, he actually saw me at that event when I was there the first time, and he was there with his camera recording, and he actually saw me there. We didn't know each other at the time, but he talked about how he had an idea of like food and selling food and stuff like that at a place like that. But there are a couple of issues. One is he can't sell at that event. He can't. And the reason he can't is because he doesn't live in one of these areas. He's not a local business. Um, if I'm making stuff here and selling, I am a local guy. I'm a local business. So that would count. But food is interesting and all of that. And we did discuss a little bit of our ideas regarding food. But it wasn't my original idea, and I wasn't really gung-ho on that. And also, if you're wanting to do food, there are more rules and policies that you have to follow in order to sell food at an event like that. And I think it makes sense, though. I mean, some of those are safety regulations, and those things should be in place, and I understand that. But also, I think if you're going to do that at an event like this, you also have to do some of your sourcing, if not all of your sourcing, locally or as local as you can. So, just for example, with woodworking, the theme of this event right now is sustainability, right? Now, in my house, in my storage buildings, in my kuras, I have a lot of my own wood, and some of it is very, very old. I have some very, very old wood here, a lot of reclaimed wood. Some of the wood that I've torn out of my house, like in my kitchen, when I tore out the kitchen, some of the wood I saved so that I can use it for other things, such as art projects and other woodworking projects. And this type of wood is valuable, but it also is able to be recycled and reused. So it's a sustainability thing. You're able to take the wood and reuse it, right? Well, if I just go down to the hardware store, and I don't mean the lumber, like if you look at my last short video, it's only about a 2-minute video. It introduces another local independent business here in Fukutomi. It's about a 10-minute drive from my house right here, and that is a local business, and they take local lumber and they cut it up, and they don't just sell the wood and the lumber and the planks and things like that, the pieces, but they also make some things, some benches and tables and seats, and they also make handicrafts and household goods. They make some really awesome bowls, wooden bowls, and they are so amazing. Just a lot of really cool, I guess you could say, fine Japanese created and carved items. So if you're comparing sourcing your wood from a place like that and sourcing your wood from a place like Juntendo is a chain of hardware stores in Japan. So if you're just buying wood from there and building stuff and taking it down to sell locally, that's not sustainability because all of that wood is freshly produced. It's newly produced wood. However, getting wood from the local lumber yard where they're taking wood that they're not going out and chopping down trees and then cutting up wood. They're taking trees that are already stressed or that have fallen down or that need to be cut down because they're fallen or whatever, and they chop those up and they create things. So they're reusing trees that are in bad condition or have fallen or need to come down. Plus, That's sustainable. If I use that wood, that's sustainable. That meets the goal of a thing like the Center March. And of course, my wood here is reclaimed wood, and any wood that I tear out of my house that I reuse either in the house or to sell or make other things. This is also a good. So this meets sustainability goals. This is a good way of reusing wood and reinventing it so that they can not only save us from having to burn through new materials, but at the same time it gives new life to wood that's really nice and deserves to continue to have an extended life, and old wood has a character that a lot of new wood just doesn't have. And so I've got a lot of wood here. Even some of my firewood is really cool. I've been able to produce some artwork with my some of my firewood and some of the old lumber that I've found. One piece of artwork that I produced, I gave to the cafe. It's on display at the cafe, and the backer board frame is 3/4 inch lumber that came out of my kura. It's a similar board that you would see on my floors here in the house, and the frame is the thick board that came from my kitchen floor when I tore that out. And the centerpiece, it looks like it resembles the head of a dragon, and I attached that to the board. That's a very old, weathered piece of wood that came out of my shed from the firewood pile. It's just a very cool looking piece of wood. I cleaned it up. I scorched it with the torch, and I polished it, and I put it all together and created a very interesting design, and I took that to the cafe. This is what I'm talking about. This is the kind of stuff that I really like to do. And because there are so many, not just kuminkas, but there are so many old Japanese houses around here with a bunch of wood just stacked there, just sitting out next to the house, randomly laid around. If you drive through the countryside, you're going to see a ton of wood, scrap wood that's just been sitting out there for a really, really long time. And it's not going anywhere. It's not doing anything. And the people that live there, they're not ever going to do anything with it. Never. And the reason I know that is because it's been out there, obviously, for a very, very long time. And I don't mean like 1 or 2 years. In many cases, the stuff has been out there for more than 30, 40, 50 years. Some of it even longer. It's crazy. I have wood here that is much older than 50 years old. So there's no reason why we shouldn't be using that stuff to create something that people want and or need or both. And in the process of extending its life and sharing its spirit and the old wood with other people, we're also meeting these goals of sustainability, blah, 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 and we're not just cutting down trees to make crap. I'm reminded of a couple of things. I think there was a Akira Kurosawa film. He has a film called Dreams. If you don't know who Kurosawa is, he's considered to be one of the best movie directors of all time. And he's my personal favorite director of all time. But he had not a dream. He had a movie called Dreams, and that movie is like a collection of dreams that he had. These short movies that are all together in one movie, they come from his dreams. So he had different dreams, and they based this film on those dreams. And in one of those, he talks a little bit about the idea of only using the trees that have fallen. And the truth is, if you really think about it, maybe you've never thought about this, but if you were to just take the trees and the plants that have become diseased or are about to fall or that have fallen, all of the trees that basically either need to come down or have already fallen down or whatever, that's more than enough to build everything that we need. That's the truth. we're constantly building stuff, and some countries are building stuff like crazy to try to keep their GDP up or whatever, and they don't need to be building stuff, and so they're wasting sand. If that's something you don't know about, you should look that up. But I don't want to get distracted from the point here. But things like sand and trees, you might think, oh, we're never going to run out of sand. But if they're constantly scooping sand out of the ocean, well, there are a couple of things that happen. The coastline is eroded. It starts going down to fill in those places we've scooped out. So it appears that the ocean level is rising when it's actually not. It's just because we've been scooping so much sand out to use for concrete, because sand is the number one material that we use for building stuff. So every single country is building apartment buildings and high rise, skyscrapers, high rises, and all that kind of stuff. And they need tons and tons of concrete. Where does that sand come from? A lot of it is scooped from the ocean floor. And the more is scooped from the ocean floor, the more the land erodes on the coastline, and the more it looks like water levels are rising. This is something you probably didn't know about, because most people I talk to aren't aware of this. So when people tell you that the coastline is rising, or the water is rising, it's not that the water is rising, it's that the coastline is being eroded. So you can look into that. But the other thing is, we're using too much sand, basically. We're building a lot of stuff we don't need instead of reusing the old stuff that we still have. And it's the same thing with wood and these houses. Here in Japan, we have tons and tons and tons of Akiya, or empty houses, everywhere. Some of them are quite old, some of them are a little old, some of them are not too old, some of them are fairly new. They kind of run the gamut. There's a variety, but they're everywhere all over Japan. And for various reasons, many Japanese don't want to live in these houses. And just to give you a couple of little examples, if there's any type of stigma attached to a house in Japan, most Japanese don't want to live there at all. So, for example, if somebody died in the house, or especially if somebody committed a murder or a suicide in the house, they definitely don't want to live there. But the other thing is, even if nothing bad happened, a house that has been around for like 30 or 40 years at least, a lot of Japanese don't want to live in there, and it's because of superstitious reasons. Even though Japan is not known to be a religious country, they still, this obviously doesn't apply for everybody, but by and large, a lot of people here are still very superstitious. And part of that superstition really is this idea of other families' energy still being in the house. They don't want to take over a house that has someone else's energy in it, so they're not interested in buying these older houses. They really want something new. And I was talking about this with my friend Till day before yesterday, because he invited me over to his house. He's renting a house that was kind of an Akiya. It was just the owner owns this older house. It's not too old. Actually, it's really, really nice. I walked in there and I was like, wow, this is really nice and clean. Oh, what a beautiful place to live in, The stairway going up to the second floor is a little strange, but the house itself is very, very nice. And he was talking about a couple of different things, and one of those was how nobody wanted to live in a house like that because, number one, they said it was old. They look around and they say, oh, this is such an old house. And I think that's hilarious, because it didn't look old to me. Some of these houses were built like in 1979 or 1980s or something like that, and they're called old and out of fashion or out of date or whatever. Plus, it has the energy of the previous family, and nobody wants to live there. Well, I think back to the house that I had in America. I had a brick house, 3-bedroom, 1 bath, and I was in the process of putting in another half bath. Plus, I had a huge living room, a stone fireplace, a huge yard and backyard with a fence, parking for 6 or 7 cars, and a back patio, a large kitchen with a slate tile floor. The bedrooms weren't very large, but it was a nice home, and it was built in 1979. And even to this day, I haven't seen that house in over 10 years, but I can tell you it's still in nice condition as long as the family, took care of it. It was a good house, and it would easily sell today. Even today, if I still had it and I wanted to sell it, it would be easy to sell. There would be no problem. But in in Japan, such a house would be like, oh no, 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 that's too old. It's an old house. So basically, the preference is to, if you have an old house, then they would just rather destroy the house and burn everything and then rebuild something new, so that all that old energy is completely gone and everything that's there now is just theirs. And it just so happens that yesterday I went to pick up a table saw, which I'm very excited about. But the guy that I went, or that I met yesterday, he was telling me some things about his experience, because he's married to a Japanese lady, and through her and some other people, he's heard some pretty interesting superstitious things. And one of those is that even his wife, she refuses to live in these houses that other people have lived in. Maybe if the house is less than 10 years old and only one family has lived there and they didn't have any issues, they moved in and moved out. Maybe, but she still wouldn't prefer that. She would prefer something that nobody has lived in. But a house that's like 30 years old that two or three families have lived in, she would never do that. And in her opinion, it's like, if you have a house like that, then you should just, burn everything that's on the inside or throw it away, and then tear the house down or burn everything and then completely rebuild everything. That's the way that she looks at it. And a lot of people here in Japan, this is the same attitude that they have about it. And I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but a lot of the houses that remain empty, you probably already know that, these older houses, maybe the grandma and the grandpa still live there, or one of them has passed away. Maybe grandpa has already passed away, grandma's living there by herself, and eventually she just can't be there alone anymore, so she moves in with her family in the city. And sometimes the family just kind of comes out to the house to kind of clean up a little bit, cut the grass or whatever. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they just abandon it, and they don't pay the taxes on it. They don't take care of the property. That's just kind of the way it goes. If I'm not mistaken, Tokyo Lama's property, he said that they got it from the tax assessor's office. It was kind of basically just completely abandoned, in that they weren't going to do anything with it. They left cars there. They left stuff there. They didn't, cut the grass or whatever. They didn't pay the taxes, and eventually just kind of went over to the government and they auctioned it off. My property, it was interesting because my property is much, much older than his property. His property has the traditional style, but it's not that old, actually. My property is very, very, very old. And when it was abandoned, it was a similar situation where grandma moved to like the Hachihomatsu area. I know you probably don't know this, but it's just another area, maybe about I don't know, maybe a 20, no, more than that, maybe 35 to 40-minute drive from here to there. And that's where her son and his family live, and she moved there with them. But this property has been, not lived in and abandoned for over 25 years. The only difference is that they've been paying the property taxes. So every year they get the tax for the property, and they've been paying it. However, taking care of the property, like showing up and sweeping it out and cleaning it out and cutting the grass and taking care of things outside, absolutely not. They didn't do that. It was a disaster when I got here originally. So it was abandoned in the sense that it was completely neglected for a very, very long time. And a house like this, what happens a lot of times, these are common things I think you've all heard, but the interesting thing is that what that you might not know is that a lot of the reason why these houses remain empty for a very, 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 very long time and people don't do anything, as opposed to just going ahead and tearing it down or selling it, is because the people that would be interested in the land or the property itself, they're obviously not interested in the house because number one, it's old, and number two, it still has like the connection to the other family, and they don't want that. Number three, it has a lot of stuff still left behind that belonged to the old family, and they definitely don't want that. But there's the other thing, which is what to do with it. And what if the property's in a really good location, then and they can get a good price on buying it, then they will be more than happy to get it, and a corporation, especially a company, would be happy to get it, because then they would just completely dismantle, tear the house apart, throw it away, clear the land, build something brand new. That's what they would do. And this is the point that I was going to get to, which you might not be aware of, is that that's why a lot of properties just sit abandoned or empty for a very, very long time and just fall into ruin, sometimes, a lot of times, because it costs a lot of money in Japan. It's not like, for example, in my hometown, it's not like in the US. I would say that in many places in America, if you have an old property like this and you want to just level it and tear it down and rebuild, then probably what you would do is just go in with a bulldozer and bulldoze the whole thing down, completely break it apart and tear it into rubble, and then bring a dump truck or two and load all of that stuff in the dump truck and take it to the dump and just dump it out. But you can't do that in Japan. And the reason is because there's a proper way to dispose of everything, and you have to follow that. If you just come over here and you just tear everything down and you throw in a dump truck, where are you going to take it? You going to take it and dump it in the river, or take it and dump it in the forest or something? If you take it down to the garbage dump, it's not that simple. They're going to say, well, you have to divide this stuff. You can't just bring it all in here mixed together. You have to divide it, and it has to be weighed, and then they have to charge you. It costs money. So properties like this are considered to have only a small value because of the land, but the house itself, according to the government, has zero value. And that's why I was able to get such a good deal on it, because essentially what I paid for was the land. Since the taxes were caught up, I just paid for the land, and everything on the land became my property. So not just this house and the 2 storage buildings, but also the shed, the bathhouse, and everything inside. Every single little item, from the largest item to the smallest speck, inside and outside the house on this property, became mine. And that means that I become the steward of it, and if I want to destroy something and throw it away, then I have to do it the proper way. And then that's also a reason why I haven't bought more land behind the house, because I know that if I buy that land, that I become responsible for getting it up to par, and if there are any issues, I have to fix them. And I'm not financially able to do that right now, so that's something that I will look at doing at a later time. But anyway, that's kind of what I wanted to share with you about today. I thought it was kind of interesting. I don't know how much about these things you know, but I thought it would be interesting for you, right? 面白いね. One quick thing, I'll tell you what I'm about to jump into. This will be a separate video. And you can check that one out after this video, I think. This is an air compressor. It's not a big one, it's a very small one, but I don't need much. Last year I was able to get a really good deal on a nail gun, an air nailer that's like a nailer stapler combo, and I have a hose for it, but I didn't have any compressor. Now I have this. I'm about to go in the other room there and start and get back on to making some stuff. I started this video talking about the Center March earlier, and I got into some other things about the property and whatnot. So I just wanted to kind of uh, go back to my original point about the center march and uh, and say that this is highly connected to two things. One is the work that I'm doing here at the house. Having a nail gun here to work on some stuff is very, very handy. I haven't had one in such a long time. I mean, some of the tools that I'm getting right now are so awesome. Um, Once again, I have to say thank you to you, my subscribers, my supporters, for your donations. If you don't know that I have donation links, I have actually a GoFundMe page, which is primarily for support, helping me with some bills that I've incurred as a result of taking off of work, in order to try to recover from my kidney cancer tumor. So that link is in the description. But I also have some direct donation links, such as the PayPal and the With Koji link. These are just like tip jars you can use to send a one-time tip. If you want to become like a Patreon member, which is basically a monthly subscription, you can donate as little as, like, I don't know, $4 or $5 a month, and that's a regular supporter subscription. If you're interested in doing any of that, I would appreciate it. But those different things I use for different things. Uh, so if you just donate a direct payment and something like that, I might use that to help get something for the house here that I need, or maybe a tool or some material or something like that. But typically, my GoFundMe is just used for medical related expenses and electricity, food, and things like that. But the tools that I get and the material that I get for here at the house, sometimes the people who donate, my friends and subscribers who donate, they specifically want to help with certain things, and that's awesome too. So I would like to say thank you to Z, and I'm sure you're going to be watching this video and listening to it. But either way, thank you so much for your donation for the table saw, because not only was I able to get the table saw, I went and picked it up yesterday, and the deal that I was able to get enabled me to also pick up this air compressor. So between the air compressor and the table saw, I'm sure that not only am I going to be able to get stuff done around here and for the March, but whenever you arrive, because Z is coming to see me next month in May. But between the two of us and with this equipment, we're going to be able to do some stuff. I'm really looking forward to doing renovations together. So thank you very much, Z, for your help. And another quick thank you to Michael for his donation. Very unexpected and very much needed. And I can definitely use it to help get caught up on some things around here. I'm still trying to get caught up on a couple of debts that I didn't expect to incur, but you know, that's how Japan is. If you haven't lived here, it's one of the things that you can very much expect to happen, is just get a random bill in the mail, you know, resident tax. If you own a property, you'll be getting the property tax. You'll get the acquiring a property fee. And if you move out of an apartment and you go to another place, you're going to get the cleaning fee and then the air conditioning cleaning fee. So literally, when I moved out of my apartment last December, at the end of December, they sent me a bill in dollars. It was about, let me see, 324. It was over $400. They sent me a bill for over $400 for what? Now, they told me when I moved out, you have to clean the apartment and you have to make it look nice, take pictures, and send to us. And I did all that, but then when I moved out and I moved here, I got a bill for over $400 for them to clean the apartment and clean the AC. And I said, but I did that. You told me to do that. And they said, I know, but it's in the contract. You still have to pay. So why did I waste my time and energy And I wasn't in any condition to be doing that at the time because I was moving my stuff by myself, and it was very difficult for me to take all that stuff downstairs, put it in my van, and bring it all the way out here by myself. And then on top of that, to go back to that ridiculous little apartment and clean the whole thing by myself and make it look all nice, just so I have to turn around and pay another $400. So I still haven't paid that yet. However, some of the donations I've gotten recently are helping me to begin to pay some of those things and get them out of the way. So thank you so much to everyone who's helped. I do appreciate it, and I'm very grateful. That's all for now. I'm going to cut it off here. I've got to take this in there and get it hooked up, and I've got one main artwork to finish. After that, I've got a few more to build. I'm going to share that with you on another video. I hope you can check it out. And thank you for listening to this whole time. Yeah, thank you for listening to me this whole time. And I was thinking about something else, but I'm going to save that for later. And I will see you in the next one. Okay? All right. Arigatou gozaimasu. Thank you. And Janet. Bye-bye.